I was looking over my shelf of Batman comics this morning, all the big ones, Nightfall, The Killing Joke, and something really clicked for me.
Oh, yeah.
We always talk about who broke the bat. Bane physically broke him. The Joker tried to break his spirit.
Right, that's the classic narrative, the physical versus the psychological assault.
Exactly. But after reading this piece by Ryan Collison over at Money Sex Nerd, I'm starting to think we've been looking at the wrong kind of threat all along. I mean, there's a huge difference between breaking someone and actually trapping them.
Trapping them, you mean like in a literal sense, a giant death trap?
No, no, not at all. I mean, a trap you don't even realize you're in until you hear the lock click behind you. And the deep dive we're doing today argues there's really only one villain who ever truly defeated Batman. And it wasn't by outfighting him or outthinking him in a conventional way.
Okay, that's a pretty bold claim. And from the article, I'm guessing you're talking about Talia al Ghul.
I am. And see, the usual take on Talia and Bruce is this tragic, star-crossed lovers thing. Oh, if only their dads weren't mortal enemies. But this analysis, it frames it less as a romance and more like a psychological horror story.
Yeah, horror story feels about right. Collison uses a really specific lens here, talking about enmeshment and avoidant attachment.
Which I know sounds like something you'd hear in therapy, not in a comic book about a guy in a bat suit.
Well, let's be honest, Bruce Wayne is probably the #1 candidate for therapy in all of fiction.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're looking at how Talia basically weaponizes this idea of enmeshment against someone with a deeply avoidant personality. It's like she found a backdoor in his emotional code.
Okay, hang on. Before we get into all the Lazarus Pits and League of Assassins stuff, let's nail down that psychology. Because calling Batman avoidant, I mean, it seems a little obvious, right? The guy hides in a cave, he pushes people away.
It's more than just being a loner, though. You have to ask why he's in the cave. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, especially one forged in a trauma-like league, his intimacy isn't just uncomfortable, it's a threat. It feels like a threat to your very survival.
Because if you let yourself love something, you can lose it.
Precisely. If you depend on someone, they can die or leave. So the avoidance strategy is to become an island. You build these massive walls. You control every single variable you possibly can. I mean, think about his contingency plans.
The Tower of Babel stuff?
Yeah.
He has a plan to take down every single member of the Justice League, his best friends.
Exactly. That's not just good strategy. That's a deep psychological need to never, ever be vulnerable to anyone. He has to know he can pull the plug at any moment.
So if the Joker is an external threat to Gotham, true intimacy is an internal threat to Bruce Wayne.
That's it. And that's why Collison argues that a complete life, marriage, happiness, a family, a dynasty, is the single most terrifying thing Batman could ever face. It means giving up the one thing he values more than anything: total control, total autonomy.
So let's look at the other players on the board here, because the article does a great job comparing Talia to, say, Catwoman. Selina Kyle is usually seen as the one great love of his life.
She is, but think about their dynamic. It's a chase. He's the law, she's the thief. There's always this gap between them. The article says she comes close, but she never actually closes that distance.
She kind of respects the chase.
She needs that gap just as much as he does. It's safe. Then you have his other rogues. Poison Ivy isn't interested in him on a human level. The Joker wants a playmate, not a partner.
And even the Robins, Dick, Jason, Tim, they're his sons, but they grow up. They can and do leave. They become their own heroes.
Yes, they can leave.
Yeah.
But Talia creates permanence. She offers him the whole package. Love, partnership, a global mission, a legacy, everything in one. And for an avoidant, that is the ultimate nightmare scenario.
It's the merger.
Right. And to see the trap, you have to look at the setup. You
Yeah.
have Ra's al Ghul, the demon's head, and you got to remember his goal here. He doesn't want to kill Batman.
No, he respects him. He calls him detective.
He wants to acquire him. Ra's sees Bruce as his heir, the only person on the planet with the skills, the intellect, the sheer will to lead the League of Assassins after he's gone.
It's almost like a hostile takeover.
In a way.
Yeah.
And Talia is the key to that deal. She's offered as a bride, a co-ruler, and the pitch is genuinely seductive. It's, stop this charade of being Bruce Wayne, the vapid playboy. Come with us. Be the warrior king you were always meant to be.
And it is tempting. It solves his loneliness. He gets a partner who understands the mission in a way no one else ever could. He gets an army and resources that dwarfed his own.
So why does he say no?
Well, for starters, the whole culling the human population thing.
That's the moral reason, sure. But the psychological reason is autonomy. Ra's doesn't want a partner. He wants a successor who will carry out his vision. And Batman's entire psyche is built on one rule. He is subordinate to nothing but his own mission,
He can't have a boss.
especially not a father-in-law. So taking that deal means dissolving his own identity into the Al Ghul collective. He refuses. He says no to the marriage, no to the
He
league.
doesn't walk away from her. That's the key, right? He keeps going back. He sleeps with her. He thinks he's in control because he hasn't signed on the dotted line.
It's the classic avoidant behavior. You think you're safe as long as there are no official labels.
Hmm.
But actions have consequences. And that brings us to what the article calls the night of the bat.
This is where it all changes. And we have to use the term callus in coins here because it's so powerful. Reproductive enmeshment.
Sounds pretty clinical, right? But it's chillingly accurate. Talia realizes Bruce will never consent to being part of her family. His walls are too high, so she just bypasses his consent entirely.
Yeah, the details of that night are always murky, depending on the comic. Sometimes it's consensual, sometimes he's drugged.
And that ambiguity is part of it. But the outcome isn't ambiguous at all. She creates a biological fact.
Damian Wayne.
Now, a surprise kid in a comic is usually just soap opera drama. But you have to see it as a strategic move. A checkmate. Think about it. Batman can say no to marriage. He can say no to leading the league. He can refuse to be her partner.
But he cannot refuse the fact that he has a son.
It's chilling. She has created a permanent, unbreakable connection. It goes beyond choice. The relationship is now permanent, and he never agreed to permanence. Enmeshment is when your boundaries dissolve. You can't break up with your own DNA walking around out there.
And for a man who plans for every possible contingency, this is the one variable he never saw coming.
An enemy goes to Arkham. A bad relationship ends. But this persists. It's a permanence he never ever signed up for.
But Talia doesn't just raise Damian in secret, she weaponizes him. The article points to Grant Morrison's Batman and Son run as, like, the key text for this.
Morrison just got this dynamic perfectly. There's a sentiment in there, a line that's paraphrased, where she basically tells Bruce, I'm not giving you this son because I love you. I'm giving him to you to see if you can escape my gravity.
Escape my gravity? Wow. That implies she knows he's an island, she knows he wants to be alone, and she just tethered him to her forever.
And it's not just the child, it's the kind of child.
Right.
Damian is raised to be killer. He's the embodiment of everything Bruce stands against.
Okay.
A Wayne who takes lives.
And then she just drops him on Bruce's doorstep. He's your son, deal with it.
And this is the masterstroke of the trap. It targets Batman's core wound. What's the foundational trauma of his entire life?
His parents' murder. Specifically, losing his father.
Paternal absence.
Yeah.
Talia knows this. She knows Bruce cannot refuse to be a father without becoming the one thing he hates most in the world.
The parent who wasn't there.
Oh, wow. She put him in a moral corner.
Completely. He takes Damian in, not because he immediately loves this violent little assassin, I mean, the kid tries to kill Robin, but because the only other option is to abandon his son, to become the trauma that created him. Talia engineered it so his only moral choice was the one she wanted.
And that just shatters his whole system. The article talks about breaking his compartmentalization. Bruce Wayne is the mask. Batman is the mission. He keeps them separate to survive.
Right.
It protects his boundaries. But Damian makes that impossible.
How so?
Well, the mission doesn't have kids. People do. So Damian needs Bruce, the father. But this kid is also a volatile, trained killer.
Yeah.
He needs discipline, training, a code. That requires Batman.
So he's forced to be both, all the time, in the same room, the symbol and the man.
Yes. Talia is the only person who ever forced that integration. Through Damian, she has a direct line to the father, the warrior, and the Wayne legacy all at once. The article calls it the terror of being fully known. She just dissolved every wall he had.
It makes their whole relationship feel less like a romance and more like a war. The source says Talia always saw him as a worthy opponent.
She got that from her father, right? For them, intimacy is a form of combat, a competition. The pregnancy was a brilliant tactical move in a long game.
And that brings it back to Selina Kyle again. The contrast is so clear. Selina wants to have a normal life with him. She wants to watch a movie on the couch.
Selina wants ordinary intimacy. Talia wants extraordinary intimacy, a dynasty of two gods tangled up forever. It's a completely different vision of what love is.
But does she love him? Or is it just asset management, securing the bloodline?
And that's the great question. The source argues that she might not even know the difference herself. She was raised to be a tool for a dynasty. For her, the line between loving a person and securing an asset is probably non-existent.
But that's the tragic part. Even after all this manipulation, this violation, really, Batman keeps going back to her.
It's the addiction to the complete package. The avoidant in him is terrified of it, but the human in him, the lonely little boy, desperately wanted that completely.
And Collison makes this fascinating point that, on paper, they might actually be the most compatible couple in comics.
You can see it, can't you? Both were raised by these demanding, larger-than-life fathers. Both have subordinated their entire personal lives to a mission. They're the only two people who truly understand each other's obsessions.
Selina thinks his obsession is a sickness he needs to cure. Talia sees it as his greatest strength.
Exactly. But they're deadlocked. They're prisoners of their own programming. She can't betray the League. It's who she is. He can't quit his mission. It's who he is.
And Damien is trapped right in the middle of that.
Damien is the living proof that their union can never truly work. He's a boy from two worlds who belongs fully to neither. He carries all that unresolved conflict inside him.
So when we wrap up this deep dive, what's the big takeaway? We've talked psychology and assassins, but what does it really tell us about Batman?
I think the takeaway is about the limits of control. Batman's whole identity is built on preparing for any threat. He can defeat gods and monsters because he can treat them like problems to be solved. But you can't solve enmeshment.
Because it's not an external enemy you can punch into submission.
Right. It's an entanglement. Talia did what no one else could. She created permanence without his consent. She flew right past the bat defenses and planted a flag inside his own biology.
A trap where the only way out is to stop being Batman or to stop being a father.
And he can't do either one. If he stops being a father, he betrays his own origin story. If he stops being Batman, he loses his entire purpose. So he's just stuck.
Wow. That is a heavy, heavy place to leave it. But it completely reframes their entire history. It's not a failed romance. It's a successful checkmate.
It's the one war Batman can never, ever win.
Well, on that slightly bleak note, thanks for taking this deep dive with us into the psyche of Gotham's darkest relationship. It makes you realize the world's greatest detective maybe missed the single biggest clue of his life.
Sometimes the traps that are hardest to see are the ones that are already a part of you.
Perfectly put. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you on the next deep dive.